Hello there, and welcome to The Meaningful Stitch. This is episode 32, and I am Amy Palco, and I'm coming to you from Edinburgh, Scotland. And this is my digital home from home, a place where I get to share with you my knitting practice and my knitting projects. And I have an awful lot to show you today. It has been quite a while since I last did a podcast, but actually in the meantime, I was very fortunate to be interviewed by the lovely Irina of Fibre Chats for her channel. And so I'm going to share a link to that down below so you can go and follow up on that after this episode. And in fact, all the links to everything that I'm talking about are going to be down in the description box just below this video, so you can go and check all of those out too. So at the start, I always like to draw a card from one of my many Oracle decks, and this time I've chosen to draw a card from my Archetypes deck. This is a deck by Kim Krans, and it's from her series of The Wild Unknown. And the card that I drew for us for today is this one here, Anima Mundi. So I'm just going to read you the words from the guide, and then we'll get into some knitting. Anima Mundi, the soul of the world, all that is. Anima Mundi epitomizes the principle, accept all, reject none. Simply put, it is the living soul of the world in all its multifaceted, multidimensional layers, bonded together by loving cosmic forces. Diversity is celebrated, multiplicity is honoured, and nothing is denied embrace. Constructs of separation dissipate into the wonderful mess of shared consciousness. Anima Mundi is the link between the literal and the imaginal, the rational and the mythic. It is the connective fibre that makes life meaningful. This card indicates an initiation on the level of the soul. You will awaken the unique light within and witness how this light contributes to the radiance of the entire universe. You will sense yourself as a critical note in the cosmic orchestra. Destiny is altered as you hear the enchanted melody of all living things. Isn't that beautiful? And so perfect, I think, right now, because astrologically, Mercury is now retrograding through the sign of Libra. Mercury is the god of communication, and Libra is the sign of relationships and harmony, and about being able to find those resolutions in conflict. And so as Mercury is completing its retrograde through this particular sign, it's really an invitation for us to start exploring communication in our own relationships, but also how we navigate the different places of opposition in our lives and how can we start to create meaningful dialogue. And so I think it's really apt that this particular card, Anima Mundi, has stepped forward for us on this particular occasion, because it invites us to see the complexity of things and invites in an experience of wholeness and of integration. And I think for me, certainly, one of the ways in which I explore this is through my knitting, because I really allow myself to engage with the full catastrophe of my knitting practice, the successes and the not so successes, all of the different fibres, all of the different colours, and then of course having these opportunities to go to these wonderful knitting festivals that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, where I get to meet all different types of people and connect with all new friends and old friends and just, and then all the yarn. So yes, anyway, we'll talk about all of that later. But before we get to all of that, I'm going to share with you what I'm wearing. So you might remember this. This is about a year old now. This is the Sugar sweater, and it's by Julia Wilkins. And I've knitted this in Rauma Lamel Garn, which is a lamb's wool, and it's quite a fine weight lamb's wool. It's certainly a light fingering, and I would think the pattern is written for sport weight. So from what I can remember, I had to do some wrangling with gauge and size to get a good fit, but I'm so pleased with how it worked out. My contrast colour is this Mystery Shetland cone. We've not mentioned one of those for a while, but here it is. This is the Shetland that I use, the Shetland yarn that I use. And I'm saying Shetland only because it's written made in Scotland, and it says Shetland on the inside. So I'm assuming that it's Shetland, but I picked it up in a charity shop many years ago now. And again, it's quite fine weight as well, so it was a good match for the Lamellgarn. And I'm so pleased with how it worked out. It was so fun to create this textured knit. I spoke quite a lot about it, I think, at the time when I was knitting it, but I'm not sure you've ever actually seen me wear it on the podcast before, which is terribly remiss, but then it has been rather warm, and now it's just starting to cool down a little bit, so I thought I could get away with wearing a lightweight 4-ply jumper. So you can see it's a drop shoulder construction. I really love the way that the neck sits on my shoulders. And yeah, it's got a little bit of positive ease, but it's not a boxy fit. It's more kind of a sweatshirt fit, I would describe it. And I knitted this, like I said, for my birthday last year. My birthday is in November, and I always like to knit something in October that is considered for me a birthday knit. And I'm going to share with you a little bit later on what my birthday knit is going to be for this year. I managed to pick up some yarn at one of the festivals that I went to. I also picked up some prizes for a giveaway. So if you left a comment in the previous episode for the video, then I will be sharing whether you are my winner or not. And I will share with you the prizes a bit later on as well, when we get to what's new to me, what's new in my stash. Quite a bit. So what have I finished? Well, I finished quite two big things actually, but I'm not really going to talk about either of them just now because I've recorded a video which I would invite you to go and have a look at, and you can see them in these two items in a bit more detail. Hobby Yarn approached me earlier on this summer and asked me to do a yarn review, and they said that I could choose whatever yarn I wanted in return for a free and fair review and to do a little video on it. So that's exactly what I've done. So again, I'll pop the link to that in the description box so that you can go and follow up on that, and you can see these two finished objects in a bit more detail. But this was the first one. It's a Seriously Holy by Stephen West, and I decided to knit this particularly because I wanted to explore this Dream Colour yarn and its long gradient in a brioche stitch. But I also really wanted to knit a second example of the Seriously Holy so I could take it with me to Perth, because I was delivering a talk there, and Eva very kindly asked if I would bring along my collection of Stephen West shawls. So I wanted a few more to add to my collection, and this was the very last one that I knitted to take with me. So there you go, Seriously Holy by Stephen West. And like I said, I give you a lot more detail about this and about the yarn and about the cost, etc., and the composition of the fibres, the blend, so that you can go and follow up on all of that. So there was that, and then there was this, which is Andrea Mowry's Pink Fizz. And I've knitted this in Hobby Yarn, and it is alpaca silk and their alpaca lace held together to create this kind of marled fabric. It was quite an intense knit because of this amazing stitch repeat, which I think is 72 rows and 35 stitches. So not one which you're going to memorize. But the chart is very clear. Again, it's just yarn overs and knit twos together, and you know, it kind of creates this wonderful effect. There are a few special lace techniques, but they're described very, very well. The shoulders, I think, are particularly neat because it's a 3-needle bind off on the outside, which kind of creates this seam, which I really like. As I share in the yarn review video, the only thing I'm not happy about is the depth of the sleeves. So my plan is to rip those back and do a bit of a mod and taper them so that they're a little bit more slimmer fit and sit next to my skin a bit easier on my arms. So there we go. That was the second one, the second finished object. And like I said, all the details about both of these can be found in my hobby yarn review, which I will be linking to in the description box, and you can find out more about both of those projects. I do have one more finished object, however, and I will talk about that in a little bit more depth here. Now, I'm saying finished object. It isn't washed and blocked, and my ends are not woven in, but apart from that, it's finished. So, this is my Manus. Now, I have shown you this pattern before. It's a lovely, lovely pattern by Yamagara. She brought out this pattern and the lapis at the same time. The lapis is wholly in fingering weight, whereas the Manus starts off in fingering weight and moves into the mohair silk. And it's such a lovely pattern because it starts off with quite a denser gauge with smaller needles, and then you move through into larger needles. So by the time you finish, I think you start with 3.5 millimeter needles and you finish with 6 millimeter needles. Then it really kind of creates this change in the fabric. So you get a more dense fabric at the bottom and a much lighter and airier fabric at the top. Now, I've knitted this 3 times. And that's nothing to do with the pattern, and it's actually nothing to do with the yarn. It was all me. It was all me. So my first one I knitted using Lana Grossa silk hair in the colour Sari, and I paired it with one of my leftovers from my half and half wrap that I did in linen quill, and I paired it with my Bright Flamingo. So I had Bright Flamingo and then the Lana Grossa silk hair, and it was on a little bit on the small side. It fits, it just doesn't have the positive ease that I expected with it, and so I will still absolutely be wearing it, but I wanted to try and do another one that was a little bit on the larger side. So I used the leftover from the other leftover from the half and half wrap in the Purl Soho linen quill, and it was the golden turmeric, or turmeric yellow, and I paired it with this mohair acrylic. And I don't generally knit with acrylic at all, but this was quite a dense mohair. It wasn't the very fine silk mohair. I think it was more of a DK weight, and I knitted the next size up, and it was far too big. It's far too big. It doesn't, and also because of the stiffness of the fabric, it kind of just sits across my shoulder like that and then drops down. So it doesn't sit nicely, and it's far too big. So I decided I was going to knit that size again, but I was going to use the kid mohair with the silk instead of the acrylic. So I cast on with Woolly Knit in the British Wool, and this is the burgundy shade. And then I transitioned into Drops Kid Silk, and this is in their kind of rust colour. And I was really, really pleased with it, and then I tried it on and realised I couldn't get it on over my head. So my top tip is when you are casting off, use a stretchy cast off. Don't use a cable cast off like I did. No idea why I did that, because I did realise I had to go over my head. So so I ripped it back and I did a stretchy cast off, and it fits really nicely. I'm really pleased with it. Once I have got my ends woven in and I've washed and blocked it, I'll get some photographs taken and I'll pop them up onto Instagram so that you can see it better and see how it fits me. And in fact, I might even show photographs of me wearing all 3 of them so that you get a much better idea of the fit of all 3. But I love this. I think it's beautiful. I think it's going to block out really, really well. The pattern gets you to pick up and knit a little bit to finish off the sleeves, but actually I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave it like that because I think it looks pretty finished off as it is. So I'm not going to do any more to this. I'm literally just going to weave my ends in, give it a wash and block. And of course, because it's so light and airy, it's not going to take any time at all to dry. So I'm going to classify that as a finished object. So there we go. That's one finished object that I can show you, and two finished objects that you'll find out more about in the Hobby Yarn review. Okay, do you want to see some of what I'm working on, because it's quite a lot. I'm going to start with the oldest whip, and it is another half and half. Now, you might remember a long time ago, I think I did mention this, I cast on a Holst Super Soft half and half wrap. And this is you'll have heard all about this. This is a free pattern from Purl Soho. They have actually just released a striped version, which makes me want to cast on another one. However, I should really finish this one first. So I chose colours that I thought my daughter would really like, because I already have two half and half wraps, and I have a lot of shawls. I probably don't need another half wrap, so I thought I would knit one for my daughter. And so I chose colours that I thought she would really like. And the first colour I cast on was this one here. And it is glorious. It's like this black, it's like blackberry, isn't it? This really dark purpley shade. It's called Sloe, as in S-L-O-E, as in sloe gin. Probably as in a sloe berry, but anyway, Sloe. And I started to knit with it, and I got maybe about 60 rows in, and I just could not knit anymore, and it's because my nose itched unbearably. And when I put it away and left it away, my nose settled down again. So I don't know whether I got like a wee allergy to the dye that's used, because as you know, I've knitted quite a bit with the Holst Super Soft and it's never caused any problems. But when I knitted this with this particular colourway, my nose would not stop itching. So I put it away, and I was really quite disappointed, because I really loved the idea of giving this particular wrap to my girl. So I was talking to my best friend about it, my best friend Jen, and she said, pass it over to me and I will work on it. And I said, don't be daft, it's a massive project. She said, well, it's fine, it's just garter, so I'll just, I'll knit on it as and when. There's no rush for it. It's not for her birthday. It's not for her Christmas. It's not for any particular event. It's literally just to give it to her as and when. So there's no rush. And so she took away all the yarn, and she then gave it back to me last week. And it is basically finished. I think she left maybe about 60 rows to complete. So I had like 60, I had knitted the first 60, and I'm going to knit the last 60. All the rest is knitted by Jen. So this colour that's pairing with it here is called Robin's Egg. And again, it's the Holst Super Soft, and you'll see it's a heathered shade. It's got these sort of flecks of purple in it and a little bit of gold. But it's super pretty, and it pairs so beautifully with this darker shade. And these are just absolutely my daughter's colours. She will just absolutely love this. But not only did she knit it all, after she knitted the first half, which was oh dear, blowing out terribly, I apologise. After she knitted the Slow colourway half, she washed it, and that means that I'm having no reaction to it whatsoever now that I am knitting on this last little bit. And look, I've only got this much to go, so I will probably finish this today, which I'm really pleased about, because my daughter starts a new job next week, and I think this would be a really lovely gift to give her to celebrate that. And so I'm honestly so blown away by the amount of time and effort that's been poured into the making of this. I'm deeply grateful for my friend Jen, who has done honestly just such an exquisite job. She continued it as I had started it, which was to do the German short rows instead of the wrap and turns, and she also slipped the last stitch on the every edge row, which is then kind of created like this even and smooth edge rather than the garter bumps. I've got a little bit of yarn left, only got that much, but I also have another ball, so I've got plenty to finish the project. And like I said, I think it will be finished a little bit later on today. So that's almost a finished object. And yeah, I wish you all people in your life who are as deeply generous as my friend Jen. So thank you, Jen. Okay, next project. Well, I also cast on, after I finished the Manus, I decided what would be amazing is if I knitted a camisole top that would go underneath it. So I cast on this. This is my size, people. I was knitting on it in a cafe and a guy who was serving came over and asked if it was a hat. I suppose it could be. Yeah. There you go. But it is actually supposed to be a camisole, so we'll see. It is knitted in 2x2 rib. So fortunately it does have a lot of stretch in it. I am using, again, my cone of woolly knit British wool in the colour burgundy. I just love this yarn. I'm so excited to knit with it in a larger project. I don't know, maybe holding it together. I've seen some really beautiful DK patterns being released for autumn, and I think they could be absolutely lovely in this really rich wine shade. But yes, this is the Ripple Camisole, and it's by Jessie Maid Designs. It's my first Jessie Maid pattern, actually. I know a lot of people have knitted her patterns. She's hugely popular. I'm just a bit behind the curve. So because it's rib, it takes forever, and I am not really working on this with with a lot of attention or a lot of drive, a lot of motivation, I should say. I am just taking it with me when I'm going places where I need to sit and wait or chat, and so I can just do this 2x2 rib round and round and round. It is a woolly wool, yeah, so it's not that kind of very, very soft merino. I find it very soft, and I like to wear it next to my skin. This isn't going to be a problem for me at all. However, I do recognise that I'm knitting what would generally be a summer top in a woolly wool. So actually what I'm knitting is a woolly vest for myself to keep myself warm in the winter time. And if it works out, then actually I think I would knit some more if I can get over the, doing all of this 2x2. I like my camisoles quite long because I like to tuck them in and feel all of a piece, so to speak. So I've got quite a lot more to knit on this before I get up to the top and divide for the front and the back and then do the straps. So I'm quite a way off finishing this, and it's a longer term project. I'm just picking up and knitting on it every now and again. But that said, I was looking at the pattern Chaika by Midori Hirose, and I've looked at this pattern quite a few times before. And for some reason I was scrolling through the projects and I spotted Millie from Tribe Yarns version of Chaika. And Chaika is like a deep V-neck and then quite a sort of a blousy and lighter gauge or looser gauge top that kind of comes from this quite structured V-neck. And Millie, of course, every single project she does is absolutely glorious, and this was no exception. And she had paired it, it's short sleeved, but she had paired it with arm warmers, ribbed arm warmers that matched the deep V. And I thought, this is all my 80s dreams come true. So I thought, well, I could wear this camisole underneath this and do myself a pair of 80s arm warmers in the same colourway. I think that would be amazing. So that's the outfit that I have in mind, and that's kind of what's keeping me going through this 2x2 rib, which is really not that thrilling, but I think it will be great. I have no idea if it's going to fit. We'll just need to wait and see. So that's another work in progress. The next work in progress I have, well, this comes with a little bit of a story. I was doing a workshop with the Faculty of Astrology a couple of weeks ago, maybe about 3 weeks ago now. And it was a weekend workshop. It started on the Friday evening and it went through to the Sunday lunchtime. I was attending it online, so it was I was on Zoom for quite a long period of time, and it was composed of lectures followed by some group discussion and group work. And we were looking at our charts and exploring kind of what kind of astrologer we are, and using our astrological charts as a tool for self-reflection. So absolutely up my street. Really, really enjoyed it. If you are interested in astrology, then Faculty of Astrology has some really good teaching resources that I recommend that you check out. But what I knew it was going to mean was like I was going to be sitting for a long time, and I wanted to pay attention, and I needed a garter project. I had not taken receipt of this glorious wrap here at that point, so I needed to cast on a garter project. So I decided to cast on a striped S-Jan. And I chose 2 yarns from my stash, which is Drops Nord in Navy and Drops Nord in Petrol. That's the other colour. Now, I don't know if I've taken this out since the workshop because I've been busy working on other things, particularly all that lace work in the Pink Fizz. But this is what I've got. This basically is what I did over a weekend. I'm doing the large version. This Drops Nord is an alpaca wool nylon mix. I think it's one of their sock yarns. It is incredibly soft and such good value. Drops yarn, I think is having another sale, and I think the Nord is included in that sale. So you might even be able to pick up a ball for like £1.60 or something ridiculous from Wool Warehouse. So I had quite a lot of this in my stash. So I picked some out and I cast it on, and it's just this striped semicircular. It becomes a crescent shawl really, and with these eyelets increases. And then ultimately I'm going to be using this mohair to create the lacy eyelet section. And I've taken it away already. And I've got another alpaca lace from Hobby that I'm going to be holding double with this, just to give it a little bit more strength. I've knitted a striped S-Jan before, and so I am aware that in the border of the large version there is an enormous amount of stitches. And in the previous one I used this yarn here, which is a Cowgirl Blues merino lace single, and I held that with the mohair, but this time I think I'm actually going to use the alpaca lace from Hobby that I used in this project here. And again, you can see more about that in the other video. So that's the intention. That's what we're going to be moving towards with this one, and I will be returning to it just as soon as I get another couple of things off my needles, because I have quite a lot still to work on here. So next project. I should have said actually, this project bag here is a beautiful one. It was a gift from Needle and Fred, and it's got these beautiful stitch markers on it. Isn't it glorious? Her mum made it. It's so lovely. and it's got this amazing little bit here, which is a project out for your notions and things with a snap case. So that's looking after my striped Desjan just now. And then in this one, which was a gift from Ragnarsdottir from Iceland, which I got recently over this summer. It was given to me. This is holding the Lord of the Isles kilt socks. For somebody who doesn't like socks, I knit a massive pair of kilt socks every year. Around about the same time of year, actually, paradoxically, because the first pair I knitted was in 2020 when my eldest son turned 21, and that was his birthday in early October. The next year I knitted another pair of kilt hose, and that was for my daughter's boyfriend, and his birthday is the day before my eldest son's. So, and it was for him, she had made him a kilt, and so I had made the socks to go with it so they could wear that to go to a wedding. So again, same time of year, same pattern, same big project, because, men have big feet. Big feet and long legs. So, and this year, my youngest turns 21. My daughter is making him a kilt, and he has chosen this, surprise, he's chosen black as his complementary kilt hose colour. So I am busy knitting away on these black kilt socks, and his birthday is just 5 days before his brother's. So like I said, once again, we are absolutely in the thick of it with these kilt socks at this time of year. Hopefully next year I will not have to knit another pair of these, but I will never say never, because you never know, do you? I don't want to tempt fate, because I really don't want to knit another pair of these next year. That said, it's a beautiful pattern. It's a lovely pattern. It's by Kate Davies. It's got these interlocking heart cables that go up the side. It's kind of like a cable up the centre that almost looks like DNA. And I think that's a really lovely symbol, actually, for these very traditional garments, these traditional outfits. And I think that's a really lovely kind of family connection. The kilts that both my boys have chosen have family roots. The tartan has family roots. And so, I think the design of the kilt hose really complements that, actually. And so, yes, here we go. I am knitting another pair. You'll see that actually I've knitted both the feet, and I've turned the heels, and now I am going to be, is this one, is it? No, it's not, it's this one. I am now going to be doing the cable up the leg. I'm going to have to get a wriggle on with these, because these need to be finished by a week on Saturday. So I absolutely will get them finished. That's not a big stretch. I just need to focus on them. And the other thing is, because they are in black, it means that I can't see the stitches in the evenings. And I know lots of people have recommended to me that I could get like a little light that you can wear around your neck, and that kind of illuminates your knitting for you in order for you to be able to do close work. For whatever reason, that doesn't work for me. The artificial light seems to make my stitches dance on the needles. And then I still can't see what I'm doing. I need natural daylight. And, we are moving through September, and so we are losing the light in the evenings and in the mornings. As we say in Scotland, the nights are fair drawing in, and indeed they are. So there's less and less light to be had. So I need to get these done. Like I said, I've got a deadline on them anyway for a week on Saturday. But I'm going to need to just knit on them through the day and then put them away before I start making mistakes. My yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners Essential DK in black, which has been discontinued, which is such a shame because it's a great yarn. It is a woolly wool, but it's got a nylon content to it, so it really stands up to wear, which is good. And it's, like I said, it's in black. So this is the same child who asked for the black jumper earlier this year. He got the Albion jumper by Michelle Wang, and it's again, it's absolutely glorious. I knitted it in Holst Super Soft in the colour black, and so I'm picturing him with his lovely hand knit jumper, his hand knit socks, both in black, and with his kilt handmade by his sister. And his kilt that he's chosen is the primary colour, and that is really red, and so it's going to be very striking. I think he's going to look fab. But yes, I've got to keep going with that. In the evenings, however, as I said, I don't really want to work on black, so I cast on something else. And then I got a bit excited, and then it was all I wanted to knit on, when I really needed just to be knitting on these black socks. So I've actually completed more of this than I'll just say it. I've completed more of this than I should have. This is the Felix cardigan. It is by Amy Christoffers. She has a cardigan design and a pullover design, a sweater design. But I've knitted the cardigan, and I've knitted it in brushed alpaca silk from Drops, which again is discounted to a ridiculous degree right now. So if you are interested in picking some up, then now is perhaps the moment. But even then, if you wait until it goes up to full price, it's not a pricey yarn. I think it's something like £3.40 or something a ball for I think it's 140 meters to 50 grams ball. So this is what I've been working on. Supposed to be working on it just in the evenings. However, it has started to creep into my days. So you'll see that I've knitted one sleeve but not the other yet. There's a reason for that. Well, because I'm supposed to be knitting on other things, but my cuff is looser than I like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rip the cuff back. I'm going to figure out how, just by putting it on and seeing how many extra stitches are there, that I would like to reduce it by. And then I'm going to take it back, and then I'm going to reduce by that number of stitches, and then I'm going to re-knit the cuff just so that it comes and cinches in a bit better, because at the moment it just feels very kind of loose and gapey. I have made a modification. So this pattern asks for you to knit the garment in Aran weight, and weirdly the Drops brushed alpaca silk says that it is Aran weight. I am not all that convinced it's Aran weight, but I think maybe it's because of I've got an itchy nose now. I think it's because of all this fluffy fibre. I think it's because of all the fluff that it kind of fills it out a bit and kind of gives the impression of it being Aran weight. But anyway, I decided that I was going to knit the body in single strand of the Drops brushed alpaca silk, but I was going to knit the hems and the cuffs and the neckband and the button band holding it double, just to kind of create a bit of extra structure to what is otherwise a very floaty light cardigan. So that's what I'm doing just now. So I need to rip this little bit back, make the modification, then knit the other sleeves, and then I'm on to the button band and the neckband. So again, this is not far off being finished. This colourway I really love. It is called Pink Sand. I'll hold it up a little bit closer for you so you can see. You might see that there's a little bit of variegation in the yarn. There's some really sort of like stronger, cooler pinks through the fabric, which I really, really like. And of course the Felix eyelet increases are really kind of what make this particular pattern so beautiful and so special, and I think they've really worked out nicely in this fabric. But yes, my concern about the pink sand after I bought it, and of course I had bought a sweater quantity, I was a little bit concerned that if I knitted it as a jumper, it's very close to my skin colour, that perhaps from a distance it might look like I was wearing nothing at all. So, but I figured that if I knitted it as a cardigan with something underneath it, then that might work a little bit better than some of the jumpers that I'd been imagining that I would knit with this. You'll also see here, this is my standard for keeping a track of my decreases in the sleeves. When I knit the other sleeve, I will start transferring these markers over to the other sleeve. And then when all of the markers have disappeared, I will know that I am at the end of the second sleeve. So yes, that is the Felix cardigan by Amy Christoffers, knit up in the brushed alpaca silk in pink sand. And that is all my works in progress. I laugh because there was one point where I was really quite convinced that I was, I can't even say it, a monogamous knitter. It turns out I'm really not a monogamous knitter, and I just really need to embrace that fact and cast on all the things, which is what we're going to talk about next. So, as I mentioned, the Felix cardigan also comes as a Felix pullover. And I am in a group with some other podcasters, and they've been talking about casting on unspun yarn and doing a kind of an informal cal called Unspun Heroes. And so I've decided I'm absolutely jumping on that bandwagon. Not only that, but Taylor of Wool Needle Hands podcast has just announced a Felix for Fall cal as well. So I'm just gonna enter in all the cals, which is exciting. And I'm going to use some beautiful yarn that was gifted to me by Marianne, who lives over in France, and she sent this beautiful Nutiden over to me along with a gorgeous shawlography that she had knitted as part of last year's Stephen West MCal, and I'll talk more about the MCal later because I will be on that train too. So this beautiful, isn't it? Oh, it's so beautiful and it smells so good. So I have some of this. I've got probably about just under 300 grams, I think, and I'm going to hold it. I'll put that up to my face. I'm now itching my nose again. Oh. I'm going to hold it double with alpaca lace weight. And this is actually Holst Titicaca. Again, it's 100% alpaca. It is lace weight. I used this when I was knitting my eldest son's single malt sweater, which is a pattern by Maxim Sear, or Max the Knitter, as you'll find him on Instagram. And I adapted that pattern because, once again, it's an Aran weight pattern, and I adapted it for a fingering weight. You can find out all that information in the previous episode where I talk about it. And yes, I held this with some Holst Super Soft in the colourway Pebble. This colour is Eucalyptus. So I'm going to hold these two together, which means that I can hold this single strand. So it'll be quite a lightweight Felix pullover, because this is also very, very lightweight, but I think it will be a really pretty jumper. I'm just imagining those lovely eyelets down the raglan seams. So that is what I'm going to cast on after I have got the socks finished. And after the half and half wrap is off the needles and gifted to my daughter, and after I finish the Felix cardigan. So I think the Felix for Fall cal is starting on the 1st of October, and I think the Unspun Heroes one started on the 1st of September. So I'm going to be a bit late casting that one on, but that's fine. So there we go. That's what I'm going to cast on next. And the other thing I'm going to cast on is a lento, and this is a beautiful pattern that came out in Lina magazine. I cannot remember the edition number, but it was designed by Jonna Hitala, and I had seen Rebecca from the Crea Beas lento, and I just thought it was lovely, and I was really intrigued that it was knitted up at the same kind of gauge as, for example, the Ranunculus and the Love Note. I think you use 6mm needles for it as well, but I will need to investigate that a bit more. And Rebecca was talking about doing a lento cal at our knit night a couple of weeks ago, and I said, oh, that would be interesting. I want to knit one of those too. Would you be interested in doing a cal together? And so now we're doing a cal together. We haven't arranged all the details, but I think we're going to start in October also. So we will meet up. Fortunately, Rebecca lives not very far away from me, so we will meet up at a cafe and we will hash out all the details. And as soon as I have them, we will let you know. And then I think we're going to record an episode together in order to launch it. So that will be really fun. But I will show you what I'm going to knit my lento in. And I think possibly I've shown you some of this before, because I'm going to use this fabulous mohair silk that I picked up from My Little My, which is the local yarn shop in Cognac, France, which is close to where my parents live, and which I got to visit this summer after a very long period of not being able to get over to France. But I picked up 2 skeins. Where's the other one? Of the Cowgirl Blues Kids Silk, which is 410 meters per 50 grams. And it's in this colorway, which is Sweet Dreams. Now, I knew that I wanted to pair this with, I wanted to pair it with a pattern that was relatively simple, because I really want these beautiful speckles and variegations in the yarn to really pop and shine. So I knew I also had to pair it with a very plain 4-ply yarn. And I found that at one of the yarn festivals that I've been to since I last spoke to you. Wee County Yarns was vending at Bannock Yarn, which was a new festival in Stirling. And so I picked up 4 skeins. So I've got 200 grams of this Kinross 4-ply. It's 100% superfine lamb's wool. It's sold in 50-gram skeins, and you get 205 meters per skein. Now, it's the Kinross lace base that I knitted my most recent Garter Goodness in the colourway Wildflower. This colour is called Porridge, which I love. I love porridge, and I will be returning to my porridge breakfast really soon now that the weather has started to turn a little bit. When you wash this yarn, it softens up so beautifully. I mean, it's already soft, it's already very soft, but when you wash it, it softens up even further. So I'm really excited to cast on my lento using this mohair and this Kinross 4-ply. I think they'll be really beautiful together, and I think it'll really showcase the speckles in this yarn. So that's what I'm casting on next. That's, but only after I've got a few things off the needles. As you can see, we're so nearly there with quite a few bits and pieces. So with quite a few garments and accessories. So it won't be too long. Okay, that's next on my needles. Felix pullover and the lento, and we're on to new to me. Well, like I said, I've been to 2 yarn festivals. There's quite a lot that's new to me. So I'm just going to kind of work through what I have, and I'm going to start with the first yarn festival that I went to, which was Bannock Yarn in Perth, and I will tell you more about the festival in the next section, but I just want to show you just now what I bought. So I got this rather beautiful skein from Beaufiddle Yarns, Louise at Beaufiddle Yarns. She does beautiful, beautiful colours. And this is in the zebra base. It's a fingering sock wool. It's superwash merino zebra. Isn't that gorgeous? And I love these colours. It's like really kind of autumnal. There's a little splash of kind of purple and rust and green and yellow and gold and it's beautiful. Now my idea for this, I'm just kind of very slowly curating the yarn for a Marled Magic shawl. I have knitted one Marled Magic shawl, which I gave to my really good friend Kathleen, one of my absolute bestest friends over in California. So I gave her that one, but I'm going to knit one for myself. So these are, I thought I'd just take this opportunity to show you the yarns that I've curated for this upcoming project at some point. My grandma gave me this skein here from Buzzin Yarns, and the colour is Life on Mars, and it's a superwash British wool and 25% nylon base. She picked it up from Koori Creative, who were the people behind Bannock Yarn. They were the ones that were creating it. I want to use this one here, which was given to me by my lovely friend Raya. And she got this, it's actually dyed with madder, and she picked this up in Iceland when she was over there on a recent trip. So, and then I've got this skein here, which I think used to be my Gran's, and I think this is one of those yarns that I inherited from her when she went into the nursing home. So I've got those as my 4 plies. Itchy nose, sorry. And then I've got some mohairs which I will be using. I've got a Ficolana Tilia here in this lovely purple shade, and I've got this lovely yellow from Isère. So I'm just, and then I've got some other rusty coloured mohairs as well in my stash. So I'm just slowly putting together this beautiful palette of really lovely colours, and I think it will make a lovely woolly warm Marled Magic that will be a real showstopper, and will be a lot of joy, bring a lot of joy in the knitting process. So my skein from Bofiddle Yarns is being added to that palette. Next up, okay, so the Border Mill were also there, and they have a North Coast Tweed, which is a pure Shetland 4-ply yarn, and they had these beautiful little kits which are 150 grams, and they were only £7.50. So I bought myself a little set, so you can see that beautiful fade just through the rather crinkly wrapper there, which I'm trying not to crinkle, but it goes from this really kind of lovely, not far off the pink sand actually, a beigey pink, right through into these beautiful dark plummy shades. No idea what I'm going to do with that. I just really liked it and thought it was a really good deal. I cannot resist a bargain. Can't help myself. Then I got a skein of this, and this is really special yarn. I first encountered this yarn at the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase, which is organised by Eva of the Perth Festival of Yarn, and it was also up in Perth earlier on this year, and I encountered this Anfield Farm mohair, and it's 50% mohair, 50% Shetland, reared and sheared in Fife, Scotland, in a no-kill flock. Please go and follow these wonderful people. They're Anfield Angora on Instagram, and you can go and check out some of their beautiful flock. I'm just going to see if I've got, did I put that? Oh yeah, there they are. Look. So this is Andrew and Laurie Ann, and they are just the most delightful couple. I've seen them in a few places. I saw them again at Bannock Yarn, which is where I picked this up, because I left the Perth Wool Producers Showcase just feeling like I'd made a mistake that I hadn't picked up this yarn. So I was so thrilled when I saw that they were at Bannock Yarn, because that meant that I could get a skein. So I picked that up and had a wee blether with them, and they were just starting at that point to introduce some colours. And then when I saw them in Perth, they had even more colours. So they've started to dye this beautiful base. This is a DK, and it's about 196 metres. So for the 100 grams. So I'm going to be making, I think they had a pair of fingerless mitts made out of these, and I think that would just be exquisite. My auntie also bought a skein as well because we just absolutely loved it. So it is absolutely gorgeous, very special, and Fife is very special to me as well because that's where my mum's family's from. So yes, Anfield Angora, Anfield Farm. Highly recommend you check it out. And yes, Anfield Angora on Instagram if you want to go see more cute photographs of these. Look at them. So there we go. There was that. And then I also bought, and you're gonna laugh, I bought these two to knit socks. I know. Who am I? My mama knits is a wonderful yarn dyer from Scotland. You'll find them, their Instagram is sunshine_Stuart. These two are in the colourway Golden Pears, as in P-E-A-R-S, not P-A-I-R-S. And 100 grams will get you 425 metres. I'm going to knit a pair of socks from each. And the reason that I want to do that is because the wonderful Ruth Loves to Knit podcast, Ruth mentioned on there that she was going to be donating socks to a charity that's collecting them for Marie Curie, which is for people who are currently in hospice, who will be in hospice at Christmas time, and their families. And so they've asked if you would contribute yellow socks. So when I saw both of these, I decided that I was going to do just that. So I'm going to knit a couple of pairs of yellow socks and gift them to charity. So there's that. And then lastly, I bought this, which is the Journal of Scottish Yarns. It's quite the publication. It's got patterns in it. Beautiful patterns. See here. And it's also got really lovely articles and incredibly beautiful images. The whole publication feels like a work of art, actually. It's very high quality. There's an article, Fleece and Quiet, and the story of Iona wool. Isn't that beautiful? So yes, and a little bit about sheep and about the braids and the fibres, and the weaving and the looms. It's a beautiful publication. So I think the next issue is going to be coming out soon. And yeah, so I picked myself up a copy of that as well. So there we go. That's what I picked up for myself from Bannock Yarn. But like I said, I've also picked up some things for a prize. And so I'm going to show you the prize right now and tell you who has won. So I asked you in the previous episode to leave a comment telling me what the Meaningful Stitch means to you. Was there some kind of relationship that you had with this particular podcast, and what it meant for you, and if it's inspired you in what way? And I got lots and lots of amazing comments. I think I've got 355 entries altogether. And I said that when I was at, this incidentally is from my podiversary, because at the end of August, the Meaningful Stitch turned 2. So, so when I was at Bannock Yarn, I picked up some bits and pieces that I thought would make a nice prize package. The first thing is this gorgeous skein from Zakami. I cannot describe how incredibly soft this is. This colour is called Woodland Tales. It's 70% baby alpaca, 20% silk and 10% cashmere, and it's 400 metres and it's non-superwash. And it's got this beautiful kind of almost like campfire, and then this gorgeous rich blue It is a stunning skein. Zakami is, the people behind Zakami, Melinda and Gergie, are just really lovely people, and they're doing just the most gorgeous colourways. So I highly recommend you check them out anyway. But yes, this particular skein is going in the prize. I also chose this. And now I don't know what's in this. This is a micro mini from Becky of Amo Yarns. She had a little display of these, and you could take one, and it's an exclusive colourway for Bannock Yarn. So I took one of those, and I'm going to pop that in the prize draws in the prize as well. So whoever gets it is going to have to tell me what's inside it, because I want to see the colour, okay? I've not even peeked. Not even peeked. I also picked up a set of these. Now, this is from the lovely Jen of Generates, and I've got these stitch markers that say Bannock Yarn on them, and Generates, and this one here I particularly like, which says knitting is my superpower. So I've got these lovely wooden stitch markers that I'm going to include as well. Jen is, you might recognise Jen because she was on the Great British Sewing Bee a few years ago now, and she's based over in Glasgow, and so it was so lovely to meet her and to have a little bit of a blether, and I picked up these especially for you, and she popped in an extra set for myself, so that was very generous and very kind. So I've got that's going in as well. I bought the deluxe ticket for Bannock Yarn, and it included this great bag, wonderful shopping bag. I do love a shopper. And it also had this inside it, which I'm going to include in the prize draw too. And it's this beautiful pin, and it's handmade by Graham Essen. And I thought it was really interesting that it was almost the same colours as the skein that I've picked up. So I'm going to add that in as well. And then I've got a couple of patterns. This is a Springtime Cowl by Becky of Amo Yarn, so who I picked this up from. So I'm going to include that. And I'm also going to include this, which is the Flowery Shawl, oh, the Forvey Shawl, sorry, pattern, which came with the Journal of Scottish Yarns. So you've got two patterns, a mystery mini skein, the beautiful brooch pin, the stitch markers, the wooden stitch markers, and the skein of Zakami. And just before I started to record, I went to the YouTube comment picker. It told me that I had 355 names to choose from. It selected one at random, and it was Liz Humphreys. So I actually know Liz. Liz lives in Edinburgh, so this cuts down on my shipping enormously. Which is miraculous, because I had comments from people all over the globe, and I felt incredibly moved and incredibly touched by everything that everybody was saying about the way in which they relate to this podcast. And yeah, I'm so glad that I decided to record the first episode, and have kept turning up all the way up to this point, our 30-second episode. And yeah, just feel incredibly well met by you all, and yeah, I hope to keep going. Here's to the third podiversary next August. So I will be passing all of these along to you, Liz. I'm so happy that all this is going to such a good home. So yeah, really pleased. Okay, so next thing. Well, the next thing is that I went to another yarn festival. So Bannock Yarn happened in early August, and Perth happened last weekend. Perth Festival of Yarn is the largest festival in Scotland now for yarn, and so it's always hugely exciting when it happens. And I was very, very busy on the Saturday, which I will tell you more about in a moment. So I then did my shopping on the Sunday, But I think because I was tired on the Sunday, I didn't actually buy as much as I expected to. But I will show you what I bought, because the first thing is, it pertains to the Stephen West MCAL. And if you're in the know, if you enjoy mystery knit-alongs, if you enjoy Stephen West, I'm sure you've probably heard all about this already. But he has announced that this year's knit-along is going to be called Twists and Turns. He has told us that we need 3 colours. We need 2 skeins of our main colour, 2 skeins of our contrast colour, and 1 skein of our accent colour. Now, I had 2 skeins of this gorgeous Olan hand-dyed singles, and it's in the colourway Amber. And I picked it up from Bee Inspired Fibres, which is another one of my local yarn shops over in Marchmont. And I picked up 2 skeins. So that's been sitting in my stash for a good few months now, just kind of hanging out there, not really knowing what it's doing there or what it's for, but it's there. So when I shared with my Knit Night group that I was thinking of casting on the MCAL with this as my main colour, and my friend Raya, who I've mentioned already today, had said that she had some yarn that she thought would go absolutely perfectly with my Olan Amber. And she was absolutely right. So we met up and we had a lovely lunch together, and she brought along this skein here, or 2 skeins actually, of this. And it's Stranded Dye Works, and it's in the colourway Grubby Pink, and it's also a single ply merino. And I don't know if you can see, but it's got these beautiful speckles here, which perfectly match the amber yarn. So there we go. I had my main colour and I had my contrast colour, but I didn't have my accent colour. And so I decided that that was what I was going to go and pick up in Perth. So I brought these 2 skeins with me so I could have a look and see and measure up against the different colours, different colour choices. And I ended up getting this. So this is from Nervous Fibres. It's actually a merino linen base, but it's also a single, so it'll work perfectly well with it. And that's going to be my accent colour. I'm really pleased with this because these 2 colours here speak to me of copper, you know, beautiful burnished copper. And then this is like the patina that you sometimes get with aged copper. And so I think together they are going to be really beautiful. And this is going to really pop against these lovely warm rich shades. This much cooler minty shade here. So that's going to be my colours for the Mystery Knit Along, which I think the cast on date for that is October 6th. Gosh, all the knit-alongs, hey? So there we go. I bought 1 skein of this Nervous Fibre, and that's from Charlotte, who's also a Glasgow-based, a Scottish-based over in Glasgow dyer, and she is just a complete delight, and I'm hoping to get through to Glasgow at some point and catch up with her more. So I got that, and I only bought another 2 skeins. So, as I was mentioning, this is my birthday knit from last year. My birthday knit for next year, not for next year, for this year, is going to be the Floaty Cardigan. And that is by Edda Lilia Gudmundsdottir. And I've probably completely garbled that pronunciation, for which I deeply apologise. It's an amazingly beautiful cardigan. It came out in the Dreamscape issue of Pom Pom. I think it was their spring-summer of 2022, or their spring of 2022. I just loved it from the moment that I saw it, and I started to dream about what kind of colourways I could put together. And so when I saw the Perth commemorative colourway that was dyed up by Needle and Thread, I knew that this was going to be one of the skeins, one of the colourways that I included in my floaty cardigan. And this is it here. This is called Perfection, and it absolutely is. Completely perfect. It's got these browns and greens. There's a little bit of pop of like tealy turquoise. It's a BFL nylon base. And so I knew that I needed to match it up with other BFL bases, BFL fingering weight. And I actually had one in my stash, which was this one, which is River Knits, and in the colorway Haystacks. So I thought, well, wouldn't those two be interesting together? It'd be low contrast, much more low contrast than in the original design, but I think that could really work. So I wanted to find another colour that would go with these two. And I knew I wanted to find a green. I was pretty sure I wanted to find a green, and I wanted to go for this kind of bluey green. I wandered around for a long time in Perth looking for BFL based yarns, and then I remembered that Ginger Twist, which of course is my local yarn shop, a local dyer, has a BFL nylon base called Sheepish Sock. So I went to see what colours she had, and she had this colourway here, which is called Oregon. Now look at those together. Isn't that absolutely beautiful? Now, like I said, it's going to be lower contrast. They're all shades of green. But the other thing I need to pair up with these three yarns is 3 shades of mohair. Now, I was given as part of my fee for talking at Perth, some of this colourway in mohair as well. So I'm going to pair up the mohair with that, but I need to find mohair that goes with these 2 shades, and then I will have all the yarn ready to cast on for my birthday. Although with the amount of knitting that I've realised now I've set myself up with, I'm not sure there's any way I'm going to get this finished in time for my birthday, but we'll see. That's going to be the birthday knit anyway. So that was it. So I bought 2 skeins of this. So I only got those 3 skeins, and then I picked up some rag sock kits. Oh, I could just show you them actually because they're here from it. And I picked up these from my friend Jen, who knitted this amazing piece. She asked me if I would pick up a couple of kits for her, and this is from Midwinter Yarns, and she absolutely swears by these. She's knitted these before and she loves them and she thinks they're fabby. So there's £14 for 2 balls, and you also get the pattern for the socks as well. And yeah, it makes 1 pair of adult socks. So I got 2 of those for her, and then the other things I can't show you because they are a part of my mum's advent, because this year my mum and I are doing our advent again, and we weren't able to do it before last year because we'd both just moved houses. So we decided to give ourselves a year off, but we're doing that again, and I picked up some yarn for my mum's advent. So I'm not going to show that now because I know she watches. Hi, Mum. Okay, so that's everything. That's everything that I bought. I bought those 3 skeins, and I bought those 2 kits for my friend, and yes, the yarn for my mum's advent. So let's just go straight on to discussing these festivals a little bit more. So the first one, as I said, was Bannock Yarn. It was hosted at Bannockburn House. Now, I'm from Stirling originally, and a lot of my family still live in Stirling, so we always go, along the motorway, and have done for years and years, and you come up to the roundabout, and there's always been this big dilapidated house next to the roundabout, next to the motorway. And I never really understood, who owned it or, what it was. But it has been purchased back by the community, and there's a group of volunteers, and there's lots of grant money being funneled into it, and some government support, and they're renovating this amazing house which has this rich, wonderful history. I think they said they're open every second Sunday. They're open one Sunday a month for tours. So they're worth getting in touch with, because if you can, I think a tour would be really good. We did a tour as part of our ticket entry price, and it was only a partial tour, but it was an hour, and it was amazing and very interesting. So I really recommend that. In fact, I'll see if I've got some of the postcards that we actually showed. There we go. That's it there. Bonnie Prince Charlie lived in that house for a period of time. It's got this amazing ceiling in it, which was made by the same people who did the ceiling in Holyrood Palace around about the same time. So it's a fascinating building. And Bannock Yarn were staging their event there, and they had a marquee out the back. I went with my aunties, my mum's sisters, and we had a wonderful time. We squished all the yarn, we saw lots of new people, and we got to do the tour, and it was a really lovely event. It was run by, as I said, this company called Curie Creative. They have a yarn shop that does weaving and spinning workshops in the Marches, which is part of the Thistle Centre in the centre of Stirling. It's right over beside Primark. So you can go over there and go check them out. And they are also going to be doing a Christmas event, I think, which they are just starting to announce now. There's no details out about that yet, but just kind of letting people know it's going to happen. And then next year, I think they've moved the date, so there's going to be more space between it and Perth. And I think it's going to be in July. And they said they're going to change venues as well to a larger venue, which I think I can understand because there was a parking issue with the venue, and so you needed it was like a park and ride setup, but it was just such a beautiful venue and so exceptional, and so I don't know where their new venue is going to be, and I'm excited to find that out. But yeah, it's a little bit sad that the future ones won't be happening in that beautiful location. So I'll just need to find another reason to go back to Bannockburn House, I think. The second yarn festival that I went to, of course, was Perth, and that's just literally just happened over the last weekend. Eva at the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase had asked me if I would possibly do a talk for them about curating colour palettes and sharing my Stephen West shawl collection. And of course I said yes, and so I've been working on that talk and pulling together a PowerPoint and, knitting some extra shawls to go along with it. So a lot of effort and a lot of work has gone into that, and it went really, really well. I was really pleased with it. It had a good turnout. I think people really responded well to some of the ideas that I was expressing in it. And I think people left feeling inspired, and that was really the whole point of the talk, was to really inspire people and invite them to really step into their own creative sovereignty, so that we're not looking to other people to choose our colours for us, but that we're actually being able to really love colour and colour exploration and colour play, and choose colours that make our souls sing. So that's what the whole talk was about. In the lead up to the talk, Eva had asked if I would go and select some yarns from some of the vendors so I could show some alternative colour palettes for the shawls that I was going to be showing. So I arrived at 10, which is when it opened, and then between sort of 10 and 12 I ran around the marketplace, kind of a bit like a deluxe supermarket sweep, choosing all the yarns that I wanted to showcase in my talk. And then my husband arrived at midday, and he helped me to set up the tech, the laptop and the projector and everything, and got my presentation up. And while I got all of the shawls arrayed along a clothes rail, so I recreated the shawl wall. And if you don't know what the shawl wall is, then you might want to go back and check out the shawl wall episodes, part 1 and part 2. So yes, I got to recreate the shawl wall, which was a lot of fun, and then I gave the talk between 1 and 2. From 2 till 3 there was a podcaster meetup, and I wasn't there for the first part of that because I was packing up all the shawls. Turns out getting 15 shawls back into a carry-on case is a bit of an undertaking. I actually had 16 with me because I was wearing one, and the lovely Estelle of Midwinter Yarns had lent me her beautiful, was it the Curvette? Yes, I think it was the Curvette shawl by Stephen West, which she had knitted up in linen, so that I got to show a different base for that also. So I was showing 17 shawls, but I had to get 15 back into the carry-on case, so that took a wee while. And then I was at the podcaster meetup for the last little bit. And then the rest of the time I was running around giving back all the skeins that I had borrowed for the talk. So it was really full on. It was very busy, but really, really lovely. And then, like I said, the second day was a lot quieter. This was also the event that my auntie, who has the Cocoon Tree and produces the Cocoon Tree bags, it was her first vending experience. And it was so, so lovely for me to have her and my cousin there, and to see them, and to see her really sharing her creativity with the world in that way. It was a complete delight, and I loved seeing people walking away with their beautiful Cocoon Tree bags. She has, I think she said 12 new designs, and she's going to be putting them up onto her Etsy shop, which I'm hoping that she's had a chance to do that, because she's given me some to show you just now, and then you can go and find them on her website, on her Etsy shop. But this is one of the first ones here. I'm not going to open them all up because, so please forgive the crinkling, but this is one here. This is a larger bag, kind of with the tie at the top, and the base has been crocheted by my cousin, who, can we just admire the tension? Because it's exquisite tension. So it's a crocheted base, and then this beautiful fabric at the top with a tie, and this lovely bright green lining. So that is one. I've got quite a few here actually. There's another one like that as well, with this different fabric and the darker grey crochet base. So there's that one, and then I've got a few bags here. These are really beautiful. Look at these ones. Aren't they cute? And it's got a kind of a fabric tape measure loop. And of course they all come with these gorgeous tassels. One of the great things about the Cocoon Tree bags and about my auntie in general is that she has an amazing eye for detail, and she's so talented. All these bags are hand finished, so you'll see they're absolutely exquisitely made. This one also has one of those tape measure loops, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. And I really love this one. She said this is a cut velvet one, because you've got sort of velvet sections and then these kind of non-velvet sections, and it's just, I love the colours in that one particularly, and that one's come with an orange tassel. And then she has this one here as well. Isn't that fun? I love how the tassel matches, and look, I'm just, like I say, the attention to detail is phenomenal. And then she's got some of these clock ones, and she's got these in quite a few different colours. So some of them have got, like this one's orange, so it's got an orange lining and an orange tassel. But she's got like a green one and a purple one and a pink one and a blue one. And so you can go and check out her website. I will pop the link to the shop down below in the description box, and so you can go and see them as well. And I'm hoping that she's had a chance to get them up onto Etsy for you to be able to buy yourself one, because I know not everybody is able to get to Perth. So if you want a beautiful new Cocoon Tree bag for taking you into the autumn season to keep your knitting safe and secure while it blossoms and flourishes and metamorphoses into its full garment or full shawl glory, then that's definitely the place to go and have a look and treat yourself. The other wonderful thing about Perth was that because my husband was there and my auntie was there and my cousin was there, it meant that we all managed to go out and have some really lovely food together. So We went out to Paco's, which is an Italian restaurant, on the first night. On the second night, we went out to the Two Chihuahuas, which is a wonderful Mexican restaurant, on the second. And then later on, we went to a speakeasy bar that had some live music. And then the following night, we went to a Japanese fusion restaurant called Kokoshi, which was delicious. So we stayed over at the Mercat Hotel. Not the Mercat, the Mercure. We stayed over at the Mercure Hotel in Perth, and it was a lovely stay, and yeah, we just really, really enjoyed ourselves. Eva, as always, did a wonderful job of organising a truly spectacular event. The dates for next year have already been announced, and so I would highly recommend that you come along to the next one. It was such a treat being able to meet up with so many people that I speak to online but hadn't met in person. So I got to meet Kat from Heather and Hops. I got to meet Brogan from the Woolly Witchcraft, and it was just just so many people. And I would try and run through everybody's names, but I would get pretty lost pretty quickly. So, but it was just such a pleasure to meet everybody, and it was just. Yeah, it was joy from start to finish. So yeah, congratulations to the team in Perth for putting on, again, a truly amazing event. I'm already looking forward to the next one. And I think the next one's going to be another Scottish Wool Producers Showcase next year. So I will definitely be getting the train back up to Perth for that one. There is one more knitting festival happening this year, I think. Well, Curie Creative has said they were going to do a Christmas one, so that'll be coming up. But the one that's been announced at the moment is the Glasgow School of Yarn, and that happens on the 29th and the 30th of October. And I'll be going along to that one as well. So I'm excited to go in and see that, and I think that'll be really cool. So I will report back from that one also. Goodness me, so many knitting festivals. This is us getting back into the way of things, I think, following all of our lockdowns and everything. I think life is getting back to a quicker pace again. It certainly feels a little bit more frantic. The other thing that's been bringing me joy really has been the fact that the festival returned again to Edinburgh this year in its kind of more fuller aspect. It's been happening. It happened last year, but it was much quieter. But this year it was full on again, and we got to go to some music concerts for some live music. So we saw Michael Kiwanuka in Princes Street Gardens with the amazing Edinburgh Castle as our backdrop. And we saw Ezra Furman, who does the music for the Netflix show Sex Education. We saw her at Leith Theatre, and Leith Theatre is really close to us, and it's a wonderful venue. So that was a real treat. And then my husband had actually bought us tickets to celebrate our 25th anniversary, which is happening in November, but the 25th anniversary of when we met was back in February, and he gave me 2 tickets to go see the Fleet Foxes. So we went to see them at the Usher Hall, and they were playing as part of the Edinburgh International Festival, and I think it was one of the best concerts I've ever been to in my whole life. It was properly brilliant. The light show was very full on. They sang for 2 hours, and a lot of the tracks were familiar to us from when we were raising our children when our kids were really quite young, and so it brought back lots of lovely memories, and it was lovely, and it was brilliant. So yeah, music concerts have been bringing me a lot of joy, re-engaging with live music. One of the tracks that they performed as the Fleet Foxes was a cover of a Judy Sill track called The Kiss, and I'm just obsessed with this track now. I just think it's wonderful. I'm going to link to that as well in the description box so you can go listen to that too. But it's from, I think the track's from the Old Grey Whistle Test, so it's a very old track, but it's a really, really good one, so I'll share that with you too. I also want to share a couple of knitting books that I was sent. Now, I meant to share these in the last episode, because they arrived just before I went to France, and so I couldn't share them in the French episode. I was going to share them in the episode after that, and I didn't. So this is me sharing them now. And a lovely viewer called Maud sent me these books, and these are heavy books. So thank you so much, Maud, because they are so appreciated, and yeah, they're just absolutely gorgeous. So the one that she told me she was sending was Victorian Lace Today. It's a big hardback book, and it's got these fabulous patterns in it. Really beautiful. All different types of lace and different stoles and wraps and shawls, and just look at that. Stunning. So that arrived, but in the same package she included Cafe Facet's Dreaming in Colour, which again is a big hardback book. Thank you so much, Maud. This book is just, and I had looked at this book several times and hadn't bought it, but not because I didn't want it, because I really wanted it. And now I have it, and it's just an absolute treat for the eyes. There's a lot of text there as well, but just look. Lots of colour inspiration there. So these two beautiful books have joined my other knitting books in my library. I will be adding a few more books, I think, or publications certainly. Lina number 15 is coming out tomorrow. I've looked through the patterns, and I'm so in love with so many of them. And before I buy a publication, I really have to be pretty committed to more than 2 or 3 of the patterns. And with this one, I really am. So I'm excited about Lina 15 coming out. And I think it's today that the new Tin Can Knits book is coming out as well. And I think it's called the Lazy Sunday collection, and it looks like a big focus on cables. So I'm excited about that coming out as well. Other things that I've been watching, we went to the cinema to see Nope, which is the new Jordan Peele movie. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really interesting, and I recommend it. We saw it in the cinema, and there's just something very special about seeing a movie in the cinema. You can't really quite recreate it at home, but especially when it's these kinds of movies that really rely on like a grand scale and a grand scope, and I thought this particular movie really, really worked well for that. There were some disturbing scenes in it, but then if you know anything about Jordan Peele's work, then you'll know that. He also did Get Out quite a few years ago now, which I'd also really enjoyed. And I think he's also done Us, which I've not seen, but this was his third movie, and yeah, thought it was excellent. On the TV, however, we have been watching, of course, House of the Dragon, because, we were big Game of Thrones fans, and so we were always going to watch House of the Dragon. I think we've only watched the first 2 episodes, so we've got some catching up to do. But once again, I'm really appreciating the epic storytelling, the beautiful costumes, and the performances are very good too. And it's just something so lovely about entering back into that world, so it's a familiar storyscape for you, even although the characters are all completely different and the action is taking place at an entirely different point in time. Which leads me on to the other thing that I've been watching, which is Rings of Power, which is the prequel for The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies. Which I love even more than House of the Dragon, I think. I watch the Hobbit Extended Edition movies at the end of every year, and I watch the Lord of the Rings Extended Editions at the beginning of every year. And I have done for a long, long, long time. I think basically since they came out. And so that's a long time. And so there's something so joyous for me to see, or to have the availability to dive back into this storyscape, this particular universe, and get to hang out there again, but be told a new story with new characters. and some of the older characters, but in younger aspects like Galadriel. It's just, it makes me so happy. We got to the end of the first two episodes, and my husband turned to me and he said, "So what did you think?" And I just burst into tears. It just, these stories mean so much to me, and seeing them played out in, like I say, new stories, in a new but familiar world is just, it's such a treat. Such a treat. We've also started rewatching Vikings, because I think we got to like season 4 and then we didn't get any further, and now Vikings Valhalla, which I think is the sequel, has come out. Again, it moves forward significantly so from the first series, so you don't take any of the characters onwards into the sequel, but we thought before we watch that, we'll watch this, we'll get to the end of Vikings. And there was a point in the second season where somebody asks one of the characters, Rollo, what do we do now? There's a big catastrophe playing out, and Rollo says, "Now we sit back and see what the gods have already planned." I cannot tell you how soothing that phrase has been for my anxiety. That I get to just repeat that to myself. Now we just get to sit back and see what the gods have planned. So yes, if you suffer from anxiety, or if you're feeling very stressed, then maybe that will help you. My mum reminded me that it's very similar to the Scots phrase of "what's for you won't go by you." So there's that. Maybe that's already present for me, and it activated that. But it certainly left me feeling a bit calmer. And then I'm rewatching Stranger Things because I'm just a little bit obsessed. So I'm just finishing off the 3rd season and I'm about to watch the 4th season again. It is horror based, I would say, but of course my degrees, my background is in horror literature and fiction. Strangely enough, my master's is in the Gothic imagination, where we looked at the development of the Gothic genre and followed it right from its beginnings all the way through the 20th and into the 21st century. And my PhD is in the work and life of Stephen King. So I feel like a lot of the Stranger Things 80s narratives are gesturing towards some of Stephen King's works, and I really like that. I really resonate with that, and it's very familiar to me, but it's being presented in a new and different way. So if you like Stephen King, particularly 1980s Stephen King, then I think you probably will really like Stranger Things. Okay. The very last thing that's bringing me joy for just now, anyway, is Yarn Advents. So we're still a wee bit off Yarn Advents, but we're coming up to them. And so I am putting together 2 Yarn Advents this year. One is going to be for my mum, and one is going to be for another podcaster as part of this podcaster group that I'm participating in. We all decided that we were going to do an advent using some of our stash yarn, our scraps and leftovers and things. So I'm going to be pulling a lot of yarn out of my stash in order to try and figure out exactly what I'm going to give as part of that. But that's really going to require me to actually address my stash, which is chaotic. It's not, I don't have like a massive stash. I have a substantial amount, not beyond life capacity. Isn't that stash acquisition beyond life expectancy? Sable. No, I don't have that. I do have a lot of yarn that I've put aside for particular projects, and I do have a lot of leftovers because, of course, when you knit as much as I do, you end up with a lot of leftovers. You don't always use up every scrap of yarn. So when we moved to our new home last August, I used a lot of my stash to fill out my boxes, to stop my boxes of books, for example, from getting too heavy, and to wrap up some of my valuables. So I made really good use of it, and then when I unpacked everything, I just shoved it all into these boxes, which then go into a unit. So they're not organised, and they were organised before. And now they're just sheer chaos. And have I sorted it in the year, over the year that I've lived in this place? No, I haven't. So I'm going to take this opportunity of putting together these Advents to reorganize my stash, and I think that that is going to bring me a huge amount of joy. Oh my goodness. Okay, my loves, that is a lot. I feel like we've just moved through a huge amount there. I'm just trying to move some of this stuff away because I'm looking for my phone because I've got a poem for us just to kind of finish off. And let me find it for you. Here it is. It's called Everything is Going to Be All Right, and it's by Derek Mann. Everything is going to be all right. How should I not be glad to contemplate the clouds clearing beyond the dormer window and a high tide reflected on the ceiling? There will be dying, but there's no need to go into that. The lines flow from the hand unbidden, and the hidden source is the watchful heart. The sun rises in spite of everything, and the far cities are beautiful and bright. I lie here in a riot of sunlight, watching the day break and the clouds flying. Everything is going to be all right. So, my loves, I will leave you just now. I've covered a huge amount. I need to go and have a cup of tea. But I will return really soon, much sooner than before. And hopefully I'll have some more finished objects to share with you then. But in the meantime, please take good care of yourselves. And I'm sending you lots of love.